get going.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Makaya, 30 seconds. Just want to move on.
Okay. I just wanted to make a comment about universities because I actually am a victim of, you see the universities in the country are saying we do not qualify to stand in front of the students. I taught at UZ for 3.5 years, and they asked me whether I had a master's degree, and I said, no, I don't have. And they asked me to back off. But I tell you, those who came through the system when we were at university will tell you that the standards somewhat improved. Madam, I agree with you. It's a sad story. What you find at the local universities is quite a sad story. There is really nothing significant when it comes to accounting. But what we are saying is, there shall be, or we are foreseeing an opening somehow. Yes, I've already acquired a master's degree. Now I qualify to go back to university. But I'm saying I can't be on my own at UZ. All I'm saying is, guys in this room, we have got a responsibility to grow the accounting profession in the country. Let's do something. I always believe in complying with the requirements. When they said you need a master's degree, I did one. But before getting back to university, I told them it can't be 1, 2, 3 people who can grow the accounting profession in the country. So I think it's a country issue, it's a strategic issue at a country level, right, as regards universities. That's my contribution.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. We'll get feedback from the further engagements through council, and members will be advised. Thank you very much. Now we proceed to the next presentation for this morning. Please note that for the next presentations, all speakers will be allocated 30 minutes or relays. Please, let's stick to our time. We have Lucy showing you time remaining. Let's keep 30 minutes. And also those with the advertising slots, let's keep 5 minutes to make sure that we meet our time for Chove. Our next speaker, ladies and gentlemen, is going to be talking about the role of business in the sustainable development of Zimbabwe. Yesterday, we had a speaker who spoke on the theme, and he did extremely well in provoking us to see the realities of our economy and what we can possibly do to make sure that we have a positive impact in the turnaround of the economy. So this topic is going to give us a more insight in how business can play a key role in the sustainable development of a country. And the speaker, which I'll be calling in a few seconds, is an experienced director, currently with Embrytech Zimbabwe, an organization with a mandate to grow and develop entrepreneurs. She's an enterprise developer and institution builder with over 20 years of experience, working locally, regionally, and internationally in wealth creation. She has worked in various capacities in different countries with special emphasis in policy development analysis, strategy formulation, research in business, planning, marketing with micro, small to medium enterprises and large-scale companies, consultancy, and training in business development, growth, competitiveness, needs assessment, project planning, monitoring and evaluation, negotiation skills, capacity building, business support, and advisory services. Together with other women in ProWeb, she has ventured in the mining business. She has consulted for the World Bank, for UNDP, for UN Women, UNCTAD, ILO, USAID, and several bilateral and private sector organizations. She is a United Nations Conference on Trade and Development Certified International Trade Evaluator in Entrepreneurship, an International Trade Center Certified Supply Chain Trainer, a USAID Certified Competence-Based Trainer, and a GIZ certified trainer in trade and gender. She holds a Bachelor of Business Studies degree, a Master's of Business Administration degree from University of Zimbabwe, and she's currently pursuing a PhD. She sits on several boards in various capacities: Deputy Chairperson of General Buildings, Dairy Body Zimbabwe Private Limited, Martindale, Board Member of the Social Security Building Society, Council Member of Chinua University of Science and Technology, Council Member for Regional ICCO, Advisory Board Member of the USA Organization of Women in International Trade, and the immediate past President of ProWeb, a Women Economic Empowerment Forum. Ladies and gentlemen, help me welcome Sibusisiwe Bango.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Morning, ladies and gentlemen. I thought for a minute you did not have enough breakfast. Because when I greeted you, it was just silence. But anyway, let me start by saying thank you very much to the Institute for having me come up here and share what I have gleaned over the years about business and development. And let me also say, when I was invited, I said, this is a gathering of chartered accountants, and I'm not a chartered accountant. And the clever lady on the other side of the phone aptly responded and said, that is the reason why we want you there. Because we want to get insight from the other side, other perspectives of how people look at it. So you will see that my presentation, I have deliberately avoided putting a lot of figures because I know I've got a room full of number crunchers, and I don't want to expose my ignorance by showing that 1 + 1 = 5 and not 1 + 1 = 7. So please don't lambast me and take me to task that there is no figures. I'm going to speak from the heart more so, from my experiences of what I've seen, not just in my country, Zimbabwe, but in other countries in the region, Southern African region, in other countries in Africa, and other parts of the world where I've had the opportunity to work and learn from others and share my own knowledge. So to kick off, is it up or down? Right, to kick off, I'm just gonna say, from what I've seen, you'll find that there has been a shift, that business has moved from working through traditional models to what is now called inclusive business models. And I will explain as I go down what I'm talking about. But also to say, the role of business and trade is very central, if not preeminent, in meeting the economic, social, and environmental aspirations of a government, of an economy, and of its people. And to that, to add, to say that you'll find that there are 3 pillars of development: the economic pillar, the social pillar, and the environmental pillar. So I'm going to speak about development along those 3 pillars and the role of business in those 3 pillars. Traditional models, in a nutshell, it was profit is the end game. It is a situation of us versus them. So as an enterprise, as a firm, as a business, we are saying we are here to make money at whatever cost. So those are the traditional models. Whereas inclusive models speak about, as a firm, as an enterprise, as a business, we are part of a bigger community to which we have responsibility. So there is now a shift from us to us and them, or us to we as together. So that is what is happening worldwide, that if you are an enterprise, you are no longer working or operating in a vacuum. You are part of a community. You are part of a society. And for you to succeed, you need to ensure that the other members of that community and the other members of that society succeed. And just to say, I was listening to what I whispered to somebody sitting next to me, that this is now shop talk, the whole discussion about pathways that we've just had, where we are saying, as ICAZ, are we diluting ourselves? Should we just stick to being us? Or should we be embracing other qualifications and working with them? So I will endeavor to say, what does that say to ICAZ? Also as a business, as a firm, as an institute, to say, should you be embracing these other people? Yes, it's been concluded, but really I think you've got, from the questions that I'm hearing, there are some people who still need to get more information on that. And just to say, we're talking of sustainability. And by sustainability, we are saying meeting the needs of current generations without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their needs. So we are adopting a long-term perspective. We are looking at businesses that will stay the fort. We are looking at businesses that are here today, and we expect them to be here in the future. And just to say, I come from a business background and a business family. And I saw how businesses that are not set up and are looking at being intergenerational, what happens with them. And if we think back as Zimbabweans and we say, looking at it from those of my generations and the younger generations, what businesses were they before? Do we still see those businesses? We had businesses here in Zimbabwe that were running transport, for example, the buses. Those were some of the common ones. The shops, that were some of the common ones. Are they still there today? So sustainability is looking at the long-term perspective. And maybe to bring it also to our nation, are the things that we are doing as Zimbabweans looking at a Zimbabwe that's going to be there economically in the future? Or have we adopted a culture where we're saying, I'm here today, I'm going to eat as much as I can eat, and not even think about the future generations? I think that question is a question that all of us can answer by ourselves. And now just to say, when I say businesses are part, or they are part of a whole community, let me look at what I consider to constitute that community or the ecosystem of an enterprise or of a firm or of a business. It is the enterprise itself. So you are there, you are part and parcel of a member of this community. There is the regulatory environment within which you operate. So that's part of your ecosystem. That's part of what affects you at the end of the day. That's part of what is going to say, is your bottom line going to be red or black or green or yellow at the end of the day? You've got education and skills development. And quite often, if you look at it, as most firms will say, we are just going to develop internally our own people. But what happens to your customers? What happens to other guys up the line? So you are part of this system. You've got the guys before and the guys after. What is the situation with them? Are they being educated? Are the skills developing? Because what they are producing there has got an influence and an impact into what is coming into your business, maybe as a form of raw material or as a form of a skill that is coming in to support your business. Is that the kind of skill that has got the qualities that you want for your enterprise? There is the issue of access to finance, obviously. And let me add, we can never talk business without talking skills. We can't talk business. We cannot talk business without talking development of those skills. The same thing with finance. We cannot talk business without speaking funding, without speaking finance for that enterprise. There is the research and development component, innovation, technology transfer. Are you an enterprise? Are you a firm that is innovating, or are you stagnated? Are you keeping up with what is happening outside in the world? Because as we all know, the world has become a global village. So are you sticking to your shell, or are you metamorphosizing? Are you re-engineering yourself? Are you restructuring your operations so that you are relevant today and tomorrow as well as into the future? And the last one that I have is awareness and network building. And this is where I'm saying you're part of that system. Who are the other partners around you that you've got to be working with that influence your operations, that impact what you're going to get at the end of the day? And then to move on to say, when we talk about development, business and development, what business activities, what activities can businesses do? The first one that we all know is the creation of entrepreneurial opportunities. Every enterprise creates an entrepreneurial opportunity, whether it's within or it's outside. So what you do creates an opportunity for maybe somebody inside your enterprise, and that's why we end up with things like management buyouts, because some managers in the enterprise, they will see an opportunity with maybe a unit that is not being properly used, and they will say, we want to venture in and we want to do that MBO. The other one is you create an opportunity from somebody who is external. A young smart aleck comes in and says, you know, I think there's an opportunity for me to do there, and comes in and sells you, whether it's a product or it's a service, and you take on to it. So yes, businesses create entrepreneurial opportunities. They create jobs. We cannot run away from that one. They cultivate and promote inter-firm linkages. Again, it touches back into the ecosystem that I've alluded to earlier on. They enable technology transfer. They build human capital. They generate public revenue for government, the taxes that we pay. They offer a variety of products and services. And you find that each of these have multiplier effects on social and economic development. And that's why I still emphasize that businesses are very pivotal, they are strategic to the development of a nation, of an economy, of a people. So, looking at the economic, business and economic development, I emphasize we can't talk economic development without talking business. Neither can we talk business without talking entrepreneurs. Because the entrepreneurs, they are the people that start the businesses. Without those entrepreneurs, you cannot have enterprises, you cannot have businesses. Businesses or entrepreneurs are the bedrock for the economy. They are the ones who have the productive capacity, who come up with the productive capacity. They have a critical role in developing the economy. And in Zimbabwe, what we have seen over the years is that there's been a falling in productive capacity. Like I said, I'm not going to put what percentage of productive capacity we've got now. There's so many people that are, and I don't want to be taken to task by the number crunchers here. As reflected in our capacity utilization, which has led to a fall in economic development for the country, and a growth as reflected by stagnation and then regression. I think we cannot deny the fact that our economy is not developing. If anything, I think it is regressing. Business and social development. This has to do with the livelihoods, with the culture and the general well-being of a society and its people. The creation of businesses within communities, through startups, through entrepreneurial training and development partners. So you now have a situation where we have development partners coming in to fill the gap and support government, and support communities, and support enterprises in actually coming up and creating these smart startups, these businesses that are going to help people in improving their livelihoods. The social development raises the standard of living of communities and improves their livelihoods and capacity to participate in the economy. Again, there's multiplier effects there that in the incomes that are acquired from these businesses are put back or plowed back into the communities, and that obviously is development. Still on business and social development, income earners have dependents who rely on them. So in the village there, I was asking somebody yesterday, and who says that the Get Cash, I've listed onto the Get Cash because I've got a family, a string of relatives, cousins. Somebody will say, can I have $5? And Get Cash becomes so handful that I can use it to transfer $5. So we've all got dependents here, and these dependents rely on us. Social infrastructure, things like schools and hospitals, community libraries and recreational facilities, social clubs. Support to social activities such as sports at schools, sports development. We've had a lot of some of our enterprises, some of the businesses in the country here supporting school sports, even supporting our soccer, you know, and all other sports that we talk about in the country. Still on business and the social pillar, support to sports for the larger community, the soccer league, like I said, other sports. And what does that do? It removes the young people from the streets. So it really helps to stop social misfits amongst us by taking the young people and making them focus on playing soccer as opposed to be out there and committing crimes. Privately owned health facilities, general social well-being, economic pillar again focuses on economic sustainability. Businesses are a form of economic sustainability as they provide turnovers year in, year out. And the need for sustainable business practices to ensure cash keeps being injected into the economy and society. In other ways, it's a continuum, it's longevity of the enterprises. Sustainable business practices to ensure cash being, and some of these sustainable business practices speak to issues such as governance. How do we run? What are the governance system within the enterprises that we are part of? Are we very happy with what we see happening? Or is it a situation that the enterprise is here today and is out tomorrow because the governance system has compromised that enterprise? Locally started enterprises promote cash circulation and cash injection into the communities. It leads to economic self-sustenance and growth as business industry grows. Proceeds invested into other economic clusters within that particular society. The environment pillar that I spoke about, or that I highlighted as part of the pillars. Business plays a major role in environmental development. For businesses to function or even produce their products, raw materials are used. So you have a footprint as business into the environment when producing your enterprises. The emission of greenhouse gases, and that's the responsibility that business has. Are you cleaning up after what you've done, after you've made your products? So you need to be aware of your footprint and work on ways to reduce it. Alternatively, maybe look for other alternative raw materials that can be recycled in an effort to reduce the depletion of the environment. And here I would like to talk about a company that I've seen which uses wood a lot and which went into a program where they started to plant trees. I think that's social responsibility. That's being responsible and taking care of knowing that you are depleting trees and you want to replace them. And this is a situation where I'm saying if most businesses could have that kind of approach. But I cannot talk about business and social development without touching on the sustainable development goals of the UN system. And briefly, this came up after the Millennium Development Goals. It's just a way, it's a strategy by the multilaterals to say, how can we encourage countries to actually pay attention to critical issues that touch on the development and livelihoods of their people? End poverty by 2030, embrace the need for economic development that leaves no one behind and gives every child a chance for a decent life. In 15 years of MDGs, some of the targets that were reached was hunger was reduced by 50%, extreme poverty came down by 50% worldwide. So the idea is to build upon the MDGs as you move into the Sustainable Development Goals. And I will just talk briefly about the three that I feel are relevant to our situation in Zimbabwe. No to poverty, zero hunger, gender equality. Looking at no to poverty, high levels of poverty in Zimbabwe. We've got a 75% rural part of our population, 75% is rural. And the majority of the people in rural areas are poor. So we've got high levels of unemployment. 350,000+ graduates enter the job market every year. What is happening to them? We've got high levels of urban poverty at unprecedented levels. I did a study for one of the organizations here on urban poverty in Zimbabwe. And what we found is very, very sad. So there's high levels of urban poverty. Families that are living on 1 meal per day. So what are we saying about that? The second, let me move on to the next slide. The second SDG is zero hunger. Achieve food security and improve nutrition and promote sustainable agriculture. Zimbabwe is agriculturally based, so there's an opportunity to feed Africa and the rest of the world. So what role can business play in there? Large business can help to promote agriculture, support to small-scale farmers through a variety of initiatives, contract farming, for example, that is happening, and I still believe that there's more that can be done in there. More support along the value chain for more points. So not just the farmer, but what about the guy who is transporting the produce to the market? What about the market itself? So look at it from the perspective of really working along the value chain as business and support each other. SDG 5, which is gender equality, and I'm going to speak a lot on this one, but definitely is to say women have lagged behind, girls have lagged behind, gross inequalities in work and wages and salaries, and I think we also experience it in here, and potential market for most businesses, in that the women are in the majority. And being in the majority, the women are in the majority, and being in the majority, that is a potential market for every business. But if the women have no capacity to buy, if the women have no incomes, you are actually stifling that 52% potential market that can be used. Global perspectives, gender equality and female empowerment are now universally recognized as core development objectives, fundamental for the realization of human rights and key to effective and sustainable development outcomes. No society can develop sustainable without increasing and transforming the distribution of opportunities, resources, and choices for males and females, so that they have equal power to shape their own lives and contribute to their communities. But why women? I'm saying empowering women to participate and lead public and private institutions makes these institutions more representative and effective. Touches on development. Increasing girls' and women's education and access to resources improves the health and education of the next generation. Women play critical roles as effective peace advocates, community leaders, and champions of civil and human rights. And all that speaks to development. Why invest in women? Someone says women have the right stuff. They make better leaders than men. And according to research conducted by Zeka Folkman, they build better teams. They are more liked and respected as managers. They tend to be able to combine intuitive and logical thinking more seamlessly. They are more aware of the implications of their own and others' actions, and they think more accurately about the resources needed to accomplish a given outcome. Again, more statistics and more sort of like evidence that speaks about why invest in women. I'm being told I'm left with just 5 minutes, so let me quickly run just to show the other just slides that also emphasize why we want to talk about women. A woman, when she's got $200 in her pocket, you'll find that 75%, if not 90% of that will go to the family. And 10% is just going to go to her. Whereas a man, if he's got $200 in his pocket, 75% will go to him and his buddies. And 25% will go to the family. Can we dispute that, gentlemen? Anyway, it's all information. The other slides substantiate why we need to talk about women. They're in the majority. They are looking at all sorts of other things, and really we need to support women. So in Zimbabwe, if we look at what during the difficult times, our women cross-border traders, they saved households and the general economy during that period. And I think there were so many companies that were actually using women as runners to go out to South Africa, to go and buy the raw materials and other inputs, your spare parts, to come and support that big company with what it had to do. It was the woman. Women have proved to be a driving force in achieving project effectiveness and reducing poverty. Above all, to promote gender equity is to promote fundamental human rights. The changing face of Zimbabwe's economy, from large enterprises down to SMEs. And if you look at it, you'll find that women are in the majority in the SMEs. But what has happened? As a nation, we did not pay attention so much to the changing face of that economy, that our economy was increasingly getting informalized. Our economy was more, you were getting more companies, large companies closing down, and more SMEs coming up. So what did we do as a nation? And what did we do as business? As a nation, and maybe as government, I saw government really trying and coming up with a ministry for SMEs, coming up with support structures for SMEs. But I still saw business looking in and saying, no, 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 no. Those SMEs, leave them there. We are not part of them. Instead of embracing this new baby in the, that had come out and working with them as part of an inclusive business, as part of the value chain systems and supply chain systems, to say, we work with these guys, let's support them and build them, because in the future they are going to be supplying us with whatever we need. So in conclusion, ladies and gentlemen, I've been given just a minute. I'm saying business must embrace SMEs if there is to be sustainable development in Zimbabwe. Business must embrace women if there is to be a reduction in poverty and the economy develops. New business models are inclusive, they operate as ecosystems. Business must understand its ecosystem and help strengthen it. A business cannot succeed if it adopts a singular approach to its operations, do away with traditional models, and embrace the inclusive models. Businesses are part of a value chain or supply chain, and such a chain is as strong as its weakest link. In other words, let's all adopt a win-win approach when doing business. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.
Another round of applause for him. Thank you very much. She spoke about a very key issue to say that if business is going to be involved in developing this country, we cannot focus on profit alone. We have to understand the social environmental impact of your business activities. That's the only way we can create Zimbabwe we want. So if we're taking ownership of our Zimbabwe's future, we need to analyze, understand what we are doing as a business. Are we taking care of the environment? Are we taking care of the people who are producing your profits? Not just look at the profits and rejoice, but understand also you've got a role to play to protect the environment and also to better the lives of people. That's a very powerful topic. Thank you very much. So you're still here, madam. Sorry, just stay behind, some questions coming through. Before we invite questions, I know Martin has got a question. ZB, please, can you prepare for your slot? Martin, you had a question for her?
Madam, I had this question from yesterday.
You can come
on. They say the Zimbabwean economy is of a dual nature, and this is a legacy of the colonial times. Meaning it has got two elements in it, the formal side and the informal side. And what we are seeing, and which you have covered there, is the informal sector, coming up, displacing the formal sector. My question is, there's the first strategy, which Chris sort of alluded to, that we have to formalize the informal sector. But you seem to talk at variance with what Chris said, which is, according to my analysis, where you are saying, let's drift towards the informal sector and try and help them in their corner and lift them up. I'm not sure, what is can you clarify on the strategy? Do we formalize the informal sector, or we have policies that talk to the highly informalized economic environment? Thank you.
My understanding is that the reality that we see on the ground now, for me, it has always been there. I did say I come from a business family. And my parents used to run a fleet of taxis. They used to run shops in Bulawayo. And in the fleet of taxis, they were competing with the rickshaws of then. They were not allowed to actually park their taxis in the city center. In other words, they were not supposed to service the white client. They were supposed to service the black client. So they parked at the perimeter or the boundary of the CBD. But they had to find ways and skirmishes of getting in and sort of like taking in the business and carrying those white clients, because they are the people who had the money then. So the reality is that we've always had an informal sector, and we will always have an informal sector. And this is not just Zimbabwe. is worldwide. My point is, and the other reality is, as a nation, I've talked briefly and we all know it, I do not want to spend time on that. We used to have large companies, big business, but we have seen it, challenges, problems, inability by the large businesses, whether of their own doing or externally induced, to actually maintain and sustain themselves. So they've closed, they've shrunk, they've come smaller, you know. And what it's telling us is that we have a sector that is there, that is potential, that has got capacity, and that has got the ability to actually spur this economy to get it to start growing. And my point is, if we look at what is happening, you'll find that even the funding was structured not for small enterprises. The funding has always been structured for large businesses. You want to come in and say, small enterprises get some funding from bank, whatever. Most of the banks don't even know how to fund and how to finance small enterprises. They don't even understand the small enterprises. They don't even understand that entrepreneur, how he works. They will make onerous demands that are not suitable for that type of enterprise. My point is, the small enterprise needs to move further up, just as the other members in the ecosystem need to move towards the small enterprise, because that's the reality of Zimbabwe's economy today. It's more small enterprises than we have large enterprises. So move a bit further up as a small enterprise. We encourage them to formalize, because this is what our environment in Zimbabwe says. It dictates that if you're not formalized, you'll not get a loan from the bank. So we encourage them to formalize. But as much as I'm saying, the banks and other members in the ecosystem need to move towards the small enterprises and shake off some of those onerous demands that they are putting on that small enterprise. So you need to have that congruence, you know, in there. That's the model that I'm working with. Yeah.
Thank you very much for this question. One last question, then we move on. Yes, sir.
Thank you very much for that wonderful presentation. Mine is not a question, but a comment in agreement with what she said. I want to share with colleagues here my experience with this ecosystem approach. The reality is that in most economies, SMEs are contributing more. If you look at the US, it's more than 60%. But the issue is the definition. What is SME? Here you may say up to a balance sheet of 10,000, 100,000. In other jurisdictions, they say up to 10 million. So it's a difference of definition. But SMEs must be embraced. Let's look at the ecosystem in agriculture. Where there was one farmer, there is now 100 farmers. So how do you deal with them? So the reality for the banks has been that you need to create an ecosystem approach, the farmer at the center, the off-taker on the right, and the financier on the left. But the most important thing is you have got to organize the markets for what these farmers are going to produce. Look at the tobacco industry. We've got so many players in there because you produce and you go to and organize the market. Look at so many horticulture products. There's organized market. So it's easy for the banks now to lend. But what is critical, like she said, is appropriate financing. For example, if you look at the ZADT financing, it's 5% all-in for small farmers. So that becomes appropriate. If you also then look at other sectors, you look at the big corporates who are dealing with SMEs, where SMEs, they go to supply those big corporates. But then, for the banks to fund the SMEs, they need that assured of the market. So SMEs are a reality world over, and in Zimbabwe, we need to embrace that. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Nyamuzo, for that wonderful contribution. At this point in time, I will call upon Gift to come forward with the presentation to appreciate our speaker, Gift Mudadi. Just want to appreciate you. We thank you very much for coming. We thank you very much for giving us insightful presentation. Just for you to remember us when you go back to Harare. Thank you very much. All right, ZB, are you ready? Let's give this moment to ZB for their marketing slot.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I was only given 5 minutes, and I'll try to give you what I've got in those 5 minutes. I'm pleased to present to you what we are offering at ZB. What do we know about our clients? You are our clients. We know that you deserve exclusive service. You want the freedom to access loan facilities. You need to invest both in fixed assets and liquid assets. You also need a bank that gives you prospects to earn revenue. You want to secure the future of your family. And most of all, you need a financial institution that remains sensitive to your needs. Ladies and gentlemen, we are pleased to offer you we offer commercial mortgages so that you'll be able to own properties. We also offer home improvement loans. Our mortgages are up to 25 years, and we also finance to first-time home buyers and those who would want to purchase for properties for investment purposes. We also have got asset financing where you can purchase vehicles, your small cars, your buses, and also trucks. We also have on offer a cash funeral cover for those living in and outside Zimbabwe. We can cover yourself and up to 8 dependents on our cash funeral cover, and we also have a more cover funeral plan, and the cover ranges from 500 to 10,000. And this is a cash payout in the event of death. It is underwritten by our ZB Life. We also have technology-driven products where we have comprehensive internet banking, and you can do your own banking whenever you are. We also have mobile banking products. We also have a smart ATMs where you can transfer using your card on ATM. You can also deposit cash on some of our ATMs. We also have ZB bank cards. All our ZB bank cards are on SIM switch. In this prevailing environment where there is cash shortages, we have got cashless options where you can pay your bills. You can also pay for your groceries or your banking services. You can do them through our POS, you can do them through our mobile banking, and you can also do it through our internet banking. We also have agent banking. We have recently introduced ZB Pauri Konapo, where you as an individual, you can become an agent. And at the moment, we have over 9,000 agents. Even if you are not an account holder at ZB, you can get the ZB Pauri Konapo card where you can transact. You can do your bill payments, you can buy electricity using that card, even if you are not an account holder for ZB Bank. Where do you find us? We've got 64 branches countrywide. We also have an executive banking channels that you can access at our Borodale, Vic Falls, First Street, Granite site. We also have branches in the informal sectors like CSO, Gazaland, and Glenview. Like I said earlier on, we have over 9,000 agents countrywide. Thank you.
Thank you, ZB. Your jackets are very warm. Thank you very much. See, they always sponsor us every year, so we're quite happy with them, Mohammed. Thank you. All right, we're moving forward now to the next presentation because of time. We said earlier on, strictly 30 minutes, so we want to move as fast as we can because we want to be in Chove in the next 2 hours. All right, to take us to the next presentation, and the topic for the next presentation is positioning our organization growth in the face of deflation. It's also a very critical topic, and we are looking forward to hear what the next speaker is going to be talking to us about. Just a brief about the next speaker. He is currently the head of strategy, marketing and business development with a local bank. Prior to this appointment, he was head of economics and strategy with ZB Bank. Again, ZB Bank. He has 24 years of economic research experience, economic modeling and financial analysis. He joined the Reserve Bank of Zimbabwe in 1992, rising through the ranks to become assistant director in 2002 and chief economist in 2005. Ladies and gentlemen, help me to welcome our next speaker, Joseph Verecha.
Okay, good morning, everybody. My name is Joseph Verecha. As has been pointed out, I will make sure you won't miss your journey to Chove, so I will cut my presentation fairly, as much possibly as I can, particularly because you will be pleased to know that most of what I'm going to share with you, there is nothing particularly new, so it's mainly to refresh your thoughts and perspectives on the things that you're already doing. All protocols observed. Let me first begin by permit me to recognize my boss and the FDO of our bank, Mr. Elfas Chimbera, and also my colleague Tino in your midst here. I'm going to talk about positioning for growth in a deflating environment. It's a very difficult topic. There's much that we can talk about, but like I said, because most of the things we're already going through, I'm going to be skipping some of the slides. Okay, I think we are good to go. We live in a very difficult environment, and my presentation will cover 6 aspects of what I think constitutes the environment that we live in, the context, which is the edge of turbulence, which is not just confined to Zimbabwe, also the global and regional outlook, also the domestic economy, and my thoughts and perspectives about positioning for growth, as well as the macro context. Some concluding remarks. Let's see what's happening around the globe. Over the past 4 decades or so, there have been no less than a dozen or so financial crises that have defined the global economy, from the 1987 stock market crash to the 1997-98 East Asian crisis, to the Russian crisis, the Mexican crisis, and of course the big one, the 2008-2009 global financial crisis. And for me, as an economist, I think the interdependence of the global economy has particularly been the key factor that has amplified this global turbulence, particularly to reflect the reforms and liberalization of the global economy and global financial markets, particularly beginning 1986, 1987 with the Big Bang and so forth. I won't dwell very much on that, but this particularly explains to me the extent to which the contagion effects cascade from global developed economies and also to the small open economies, emerging market economics, affecting the region and affecting Zimbabwe. The world economy and outlook, revised GDP growth prospects. The World Bank has actually revised their forecast to about 2.4% for 2016, about 2.8% for 2017. IMF are a little bit more optimistic. I won't dwell on that again. And you can have a look at some of these factors and facts that are actually giving rise to why the global economy is decelerating, particularly also being weighed down by what's happening in China, the rebalancing in the Chinese economy, with a shift from consumption towards consumption from investment demand. But for the region in particular, I just wanted you also to take note of the closer, very strong correlation between sub-Saharan Africa and also growth in China, particularly to reflect our strong trade commodities that we export to China, platinum, chrome, and also tobacco, the kind of things that we're exporting to China. So there's that strong correlation between what's happening to China and what's happening to sub-Saharan economies in particular. Let me skip that as well for Southern Africa. You can have a look at that. And I particularly just focus on what's happening in South Africa, where the IMF in particular has revised GDP growth to about 0.7%, and particularly due to the sharper slowdown in China and also what's happening domestically in South Africa. We think this may even be amplified by the Brexit, but we are yet to see the full effects of how this pans out, the relationship between Europe and the... Is that myself? Oh, okay. Okay, thank you. But I'm not seeing clear. Or I can come down. When we look at the current state of the Zim economy, it is essentially very much a very difficult environment. And we know that government has revised the GDP growth forecast from 2.7 to 1.4, but even then, I think there are significant downside risks to the economy. Already we see gold output declining by about 4.4% as of January to May, and capacity utilization in manufacturing continues to come down. This is what we were expecting with Zim Asset, the forecast for GDP growth when government ushered in Zim Asset. This is what has happened so far to 2015. And I think for 2016, I just thought since I was coming to captains of industry, and I wouldn't project negative growth, but indications are that the economy is likely on a significant downward trend. What is our challenge? Aggregate demand, falling industry capacity, liquidity and cash challenges, unsustainable current account, unsustainable fiscal balance, structural challenges that have impeded growth over the years. If you look at quarter-on-quarter growth, it's exactly the same problem. It's going downward. I wish I could be a bit more optimistic. If you look at domestic demand, when Delta says they have got 11% decline quarter-on-quarter in their revenues, you're actually looking at something like that. And that has been the pattern over the past few years. Economists like to speak about the relationship between production trends or the economy's long-run production potential and also vis-a-vis aggregate demand. That is what it is. You're actually seeing where we are right now, which is somewhere here. If you focus into the future, you can actually see this is consistent with decline in capacity production in the economy. Let me quickly move on. Growth sectors, headwinds, I've already spoken about that. Agriculture affected by the mid-season, the mining sector affected by mineral prices, the manufacturing sector affected by the rand, weakening of the rand, among other factors. That's the weakening of the rand over the past few years. That is what has happened to other regional currencies. That's why I think that the more we remain in a US dollar environment, the more we create attrition against our industry. And our chances of reviving industry in the context of the US dollar environment, to me, is next to nil. And then you look at inflation. My focus going to the end of the year is something like that, negative inflation. But of course, I must qualify this focus to say I am uncertain about how the bond notes will affect inflation going forward in the economy. So I have to be very clear on my qualifications. Deflationary conditions will persist in the near term, and also this will be amplified by the depreciation of the rand and rising domestic food prices. Fiscal sector, this is the key issue that we face in our economy, and we have got, I'll talk about it a little bit more as I conclude. For as long as we have these kind of imbalances between the fiscus, expenditure in 2016, expenditure 2015, you can see there's a huge difference there. Revenues in both years almost the same. And this is what gives rise to that. That's why you find government is issuing more treasury bills to deal with the imbalances between expenditures and the revenues that are coming down, because the economy is coming down. So the fiscus is the big issue that we need to deal with. The balance of payments will remain unsustainable. And I've given you some numbers that you can look at over the years. But when you have an economy, 3.3 billion, exporting 3.3 billion a year, like last year, 4.2 billion in 2013, that's the current account deficit, and 3.4 billion the year before, you have serious challenges then. And also FDI, we have our FDI extremely very low. At 421, should be 421 in 2015, compared to what came into the region of about 17.9 billion. You can actually see why we need investment in our economy to kickstart the economy. Balance of payments, I won't dwell on that. I've spoken on that. Something else is going on with regards to the BOP. You can see this curvature that I have prepared for you. What is showing that imports are actually coming down. From 2011, 2012, 2013, a little bit exceptional, but 2014 and 15, if you strip the imports food, imports are coming down. This is what we refer to as import compression. It's also a reflection of the fact that the economy is not performing. Revenues are coming down, imports also are coming down. And that also confirms GDP decline over the years. Banking sector, $5 billion US, slow growth in money. The slow growth in money is also reflective of what's happening to the current account. So, and also about 75% of the deposits are short-term. That's why we have a challenge of lending money beyond 1 year in the banking sector. And that's why NPLs are rising. You cannot lend agriculture money that is 1 year. And it explains what we are seeing today. I've spoken about NPLs. I've spoken also about the banking sector. I've spoken, let me now move further down to deflation measures on what I think we can do to position ourselves for growth. Now, like I indicated, we all are doing a lot of things. And what I am going to highlight is just but a summary of the few things and perspectives that I think some of them, if not most of them, we are doing. We need to re-examine our business model. We need to look at the management of current assets and liabilities. We need to look at business lines profitability. Not every business line gives you optimal return. We need to look, of course, at cost containment. And for this one, I got some slides from our boss, the FD, over his presentation over the past week at our strategy workshop. We need to look at value innovation, and also I have some thoughts on business leadership. What do I mean by business model realignment? To me, this is the most important issue that we are facing in our time. We have got to be asking questions continually, all the time, with regards to our business model. Is there synchrony? And these are some of the questions, they are not all of them, that we need to check and re-examine and reappraise the model that we are following. Is there a synchrony between the near term, the immediate, and the long-term objectives of our strategies? Is there alignment between objectives of our business and also resource deployment? How we deploy our resources, is it consistent with and aligned to our business objectives? Why are we doing what we are doing in our business? Is it the most effective? Is it the most efficient? Of what we are doing, what is working optimally and which must be reinforced and amplified? Of what we are doing, what is working suboptimally and must be modified? Of the things that we are doing, what is not working and must be discarded completely? We must redefine our business model to suit changing times, because this business environment will remain difficult for quite a while. I've just given you a snapshot of the macro background. It's not going to be an easy environment going forward. And we need a complete and comprehensive overview or evaluation of our internal systems, of our processes, of the people management, a complete overhaul. And when we are doing this, where is the danger? The danger is actually between the static or the fluidity. How do we redefine our business model? And I just stepped back to history to just give you a snapshot of what we refer to as the marginal line mentality. What is the marginal line? It is a series of military fortifications that were created along the French-German border in the interwar years. It was based on the experience of the trench warfare of the First World War. Because of the carnage of the trench warfare, the battles in Verdun, in Somme, Flanders, all the way in Europe, and the tragedies that went on during that period. So the French in the interwar years, they said, no, we are going to stop the Germans in future. Let's create this marginal line, a series of static fortifications. But I will show you exactly why the tragedy happened thereafter. When the Germans attacked in May 1940, they completely bypassed the marginal line because they used what they refer to as blitzkrieg. They invested in mobile warfare techniques. They put together units in the tank and the military all together, and they simply bypassed this static thing and invested more in mobile warfare. And the tragedy was that France was defeated in 6 weeks, which was a record. We must remodel our businesses according to the new environment, according to the reality that we obtain. And we must interrogate everything about the business environment. And of course, I relate here to the issue of the foxhole versus the hedgehog. The hedgehog, just when there are challenges or the environment which it is not secure or safe with, it just gets immobilized and seeks security in its shell. But the fox finds flexibility and agility around the problems that it faces. We live in unprecedented times. There are opportunities, there are risks. We need to do a number of things. And I was listening to Professor Seville of the Gordon Business School some 2 years ago when he was addressing business in Zimbabwe. And he was saying this environment will be characterized by volatility, by uncertainty, by complexity, by ambiguity. And this is not going to relent. It will be a feature of our economy going forward. In the kingdom of deflation, cash is king because everything is falling apart. Prices are coming down all around, everything. You want to keep cash whenever you can. Also to take note, there's a difference between what we see and what we don't see. This is the issue about the complexity of the economy. An economy is really like an aircraft, an integrated systems, a set of systems working together. But some of the systems, we see them. Some of the systems, we don't see them because they are inbuilt inside the aircraft. For example, we know that we have got nominal prices in the economy, nominal interest rates, nominal wages, nominal exchange rate. We see this, but there are things we don't see also which have even a bigger impact. The real wage, the real interest rate, and the real exchange rate, for example, which impact much more significantly on the business environment. And would I suggest to you that you look at your nominal wage? If in 2009, you were paying, if in January 2014, you were paying $100, in real terms, that money is almost equivalent to $104 today, even if you haven't changed the nominal wage. And you can cascade that further down to look at where we were in 2009. You could find out that the real wage is probably between 12 to 14% in real terms. So there are real variables, there are real issues. Let me skip on that. Strategic business lines. Not every business line brings optimum revenue. So let us refresh and optimize on the key lines that actually will drive our revenue according to the Pareto optimality. Of course, we must not allow other lines to disappear because this economy is going to get better, but it's a long journey, it's not now. Okay, yeah, this one is from my boss. Cost containment is really the game in town, and we have to be very surgical and precise. Cost cutting, line by line. And I am head of strategy and business development. I like to spend money, so when I go to the FD, even the CEO, I must first of all clear my throat twice to say I need some money for us to spend in this area. It's a big issue. Every company is facing this. Even Delta and Econet, I think they do. So we need to see what we can do on cost. Revisit all service agreements. Let's ask everyone, please, let's survive together. Maybe we may even need to ask our workers for a wage adjustment downwards. Value innovation. This is something that is popularized, a strategy popularized by two prominent business specialists, professors of business at the ICAZ, Blue Ocean Strategy Institute, that we must define our value proposition and we offer more value at lower cost. It's more than just the standard differentiation and cost leadership. It's a unique blend of value at affordability. Business leadership. Because we have this tidal wave of changes in the business environment, we have seen many corporates being washed away in the region and beyond. For example, Kodak hanging its boots in 2012 because it remained trapped in old traditions, never fully grasped what the environment was like and also the impact of technology, recreating the business universe according to what had long passed. Okay, I'm going to skip that again. And let's see about the business leadership. We need to ask questions again. What am I not seeing about the business landscape? Where are the opportunities? And I listened to one of our ladies called Faith Bebe some 7 years ago. She was talking about seeking threads and seeing types and patterns in discontinuities. Are there opportunities in discontinuities? I'm sure there will be. Farsightedness versus nearsightedness. There are very few people in the world, in business especially, who can see things far into the future. If we had time, I would have given you these examples, but let's move forward. We need to cultivate a culture of team in our management especially, a team that works in concentric rings, mutually reinforcing. You'd rather have a team than have a skywalker who really works alone and dislocates the working of the team in management. This man is really like my hero in terms of vision and leadership. Deng Xiaoping took over China in 1978. They were dying in their hundreds of thousands because of hunger. Income, 450 per US dollar. In a short space of 33 years and reforms that he instituted in 1978, has got 500 million people out of poverty, 20 times growth in per capita income. China was number 100 in 1970. It's now the second largest economy, will be the largest by 2025. That's something about leadership and vision. The macro context, I'll finish with this. we have got significant structural reform issues that we need to deal with. And sometimes I get a sense we deal with symptoms rather than the underlying causes. But I must acknowledge, of course, also government is work in progress in respect of some reforms that are going on. We have big challenges in doing comprehensive reforms in the economy. And I think beyond the near term, a game changer will be our debt and arrears clearance, which the government is working on. We have to engage our creditors, pay 1.8 billion and access new financing from the multilaterals. And then I think that will be a key issue. But beyond that, we must do a few things. Rebalancing the economy is very important. How do we do that? We must deal with high levels of personal consumption, which is the red line there. And we must deal with high levels of government consumption. These two guys, the red line and the yellow line, is what is defining the blue line, the green line above there. And that's what is causing the current account deficit and national savings. So we got to grapple with the issue of private consumption, which is high, government consumption, which is high. And we need to deal with that. If we are to restore this economy towards growth, we have got to deal with those things within the context of macro reforms. How do we do that? I've outlined what needs to be done going forward, and I won't dwell on that again. But of course, in talking about everything, the macro context, the business environment, which are inextricably linked to each other, politics will remain the big elephant in the room. And I've put two elephants there because it's politics and its cousin, succession politics. They both together define our environment. Thank you.